I am Sarah Lalchand, and this is my family story told through the lens of the sociological perspective because my family is bound and influenced by societal factors and norms. Viewing my family through the sociological perspective explains how and why we act the way we do. The family of orientation is the family that we are born into. My family of orientation consists of three people, starting with my father, Narayan Lalchand. He is an accountant and the main breadwinner of our family, supporting my brother and I financially. A strong, hot tempered immigrant from India, he has always played fast and loose with the rules and attitudes of our culture, but remained steadfast in his familial values. Emotionally, he has always had a hard time divulging and expressing his feelings, and instead shows his love through material things and good food. My mother, Mary Ellen, now estranged, held our household together, taking care of house and home, always making sure we had a consistent family dinner, and stressing the importance of a plate of hot food and a support system. My mother was a stay at home mom until I was about 8 years old. My parents were married for 17 years before they decided to get divorced when I was 3 years old. They separated, living together within the family home for 9 years, finally getting divorced when I was 12. She took her first steps to independence when she achieved her bachelor's degree at Youngstown State and went on to become a special education teacher for Youngstown City Schools. My brother, Ryan Lalchand, is their firstborn, a soft hearted, loving man who learned how to be independent and strong while keeping a level head and a full heart. He is 23 years old, and as my older brother, he played a huge role in raising me. The principles my father held close and my mother's stiff Irish Catholic upbringing often clashed. My father, the short sighted, uninvolved disciplinarian, and my mother, the loving yet misguided authoritative parent, taught and punished us in opposing manners. With two strong voices in one household, this dynamic proved to make growing up and maintaining my identities quite stressful. Although my dad strayed away from many of our cultural norms, the core values he was raised with permeated his parenting style and the things he considered important. My father has always held education sacred in our family. He has always pushed me to obtain all the education I can and do what I am passionate about. This openness and support drove me to gain good grades, acceptance to college, and the opportunity to choose my own major and career. Although we don't see eye to eye on most things, we appreciate the time we have with each other and maintain our relationship through things we all enjoy, especially our native South Indian food and playing tennis. I believe my family structure has made me more mature and more knowledgeable of the world around me. Traditions have always been a staple of our family life, especially celebrating Diwali, the Hindu holiday and festival of good over evil. Race and gender have had an impact on my upbringing. I am a fair skinned, mostly white passing half Asian woman in the lower middle class. Growing up in the Youngstown area, the racial population is diverse, but the acceptance of other cultures is very slim. I was often mocked for my cultural dress or attending puja at temple on the weekends. A familial effect to the two cultures colliding is having to hold my own against my father and his side of male relatives because of my gender. My father held my word with less weight than my brother's, which stems from the lack of respect for women as complete human beings, which was a key part in the gender socialization in our mother country. The socialization he underwent led to mental and physical abuse in the home, replicating much of our family's lives overseas, an indication of the fact that India was named the most dangerous country for women, according to The Guardian. In the end, this belief cost my father his marriage to my mother, treating her as only a housewife and never truly respecting her. Through socialization, I am who I am today because of the family I was born into. On my mother's side, it was expected to be comfortable at home, but be contained, composed, and devoid of all personality in public. And when those unspoken social norms were broken, it was a major faux pas. On my father's side, personality and fun having was encouraged at gatherings and functions to show that we were good, talented children to the families in our community, but only to a certain extent. That boundary was easily crossable and quickly disciplined, while at home we were expected to sit still, be quiet, and spoke only when spoken to. Cohen, 2000, says that sociologists have long been interested in neighborhoods as a social setting for interaction, partly because they are a source of peer influence. I grew up in the suburbs of Girard, which consisted of mostly college educated, middle aged white couples, often with young children. Hanging around with the children on my block was a much different experience to spending time with my friends within the Indian American community, from attending family dinner to socially acceptable pastimes and even the topics of conversations we had. Growing up on both sides of the cultural divide, I was normalized to code switching, learning what was okay to do and what actions were or weren't okay in front of either cultural group. However, in both communities, wealth and social class was very important, whether it was having money or the lack of it. Being an Indian American with status is one of the most important things to the immigrants in our community, making every dinner a fight to be the richest of the bunch. On the other hand, Youngstown has a 36.2% rate of people living in poverty, which is one of the highest rates in the country according to the Census Bureau. So, for my friends and their family that were homegrown in this community, it was more common for kids in my circles to make fun of those who did have money and power as a means to cope without the necessities and luxuries wealth can bring. The roles and statuses I hold pertain to my family, but as I've grown older, my responsibility to them has changed. I am a daughter, but most importantly, I am a sister. My brother is my best friend, and he has been my backbone since before I can even recall. I am the person I am today, not so much because of the person my family raised me to be, but what I learned from what they didn't teach me. Listening to my parents tell us how to be good people from their separate, differing perspectives, I learned to take everything with a grain of salt, and I cultivated my own morality. As a child, I had to stand up for myself when no one else would, which earned me a stubborn, headstrong attitude and a drive to do and be better than my parents ever had the opportunity to be. The sociological theory that would best represent the past, present, and future of my family is the conflict theory, because much of my childhood was defined by the presence and absence of wealth, privilege, and power.